Hello and welcome to the Executive Pill, the podcast where brilliant leaders from every corner of the world share their secrets to help you lead smarter, influence better, and succeed faster. Think of it as your cheat code for navigating leadership with clarity and confidence. I am your host, Alex D. Trimble, CEO of GPS Leadership Solutions. And over the past decade, I've had the privilege of helping executives at Fortune 500 companies and government agencies navigate leadership influence, leadership culture, and leadership development as a whole. This podcast is your shortcut to learning what works from the best of the best. And I promise you this. What you're about to hear isn't theory, it's proven strategy you can use today. And before we jump in, here's a tiny request with a massive ripple effect. Please, please, please hit that like button. Why? Because in the attention economy, your click is the fuel that powers these life-changing ideas to reach more and more people. You're not just liking, you're literally leading a movement. Pretty powerful if you think about it, just by one little click. Now, let's make today extraordinary. Today we have with us the always amazing and just spectacular Miss Anne Tomkinson. Anne currently serves as the Senior Vice President for People and Culture at the National Apartment Association and has over 20 years of experience in people operations with a focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. How are you doing today, madam?
I am doing fantastic. I have been looking forward to this conversation all day, Alex. Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness, thank you for being here. Look, I've been opening the question with our interviews with this question. I think it's gonna be really cool. So, what do we need to know about your past or your current situation that 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 helps us understand who you are and what shapes your perception of the world?
That is a great question, and I could talk about that alone for the next hour. But when I really think about it, it is about my past, but it's less about the things that have happened and more about what I've learned from them and how I've reacted to them and how they have shaped me and formed me to become the person that I am today, the leader that I am today. And what I hope is that the leader I am today is because of the person. And I talk about people first HR, a people first culture, and that doesn't come from, that comes from me. That comes from who I am. My goal in life, one of my deepest values is to lead with love. One of my deepest values is to be present in my life and to see people as individuals for who they are. So the work that I do, down to how I show up in my personal life, how I show up for, the barista at Starbucks to wherever it is that I am, is I want to see people because each individual person has dignity and worth. And so I want to lead like that. And I want to be part of creating cultures that celebrate that.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So that means because you had such a wonderful, wonderful answer, I'm going to start you off with a hard question. So
bring it. I'm also not afraid to fail in public.
So part of what you said reminded me of a comment I make a lot, actually. I always tell people that that everyone may be important, but everyone is not the same level of importance at every point in their time, every point in life. Like there's levels to this. One of my mentors would say there's levels to this. And I use the example that my wife and I have now been together for 17 years, almost 18 years. And her and I would not be together for that long if I did not prioritize spending time with her over the barista at the Starbucks. And so the fact, so everyone has a level of importance. How do you determine where to allocate your time? When I say where, I mean who to allocate your time with, given that everyone has importance, everyone has something of value?
That is a great question. So the thing about the barista, and I am, to my shame, on first name basis with the barista at my local Starbucks because I'm there. But Justin is great. He's great. Shout out. The thing is that in that moment when I'm picking up my coffee, he's the most important person. Thanks, Justin. Have a good day. I'm in there for 30 seconds. I'm mobile. I order pre on the mobile app, and I waltz in, and my drink is there, and he smiles and I smile, and I leave, right? So it's not that he's the most important person in my life. It's just that in that moment, I want to be fully present so that he's the most important person in that moment that I'm talking to him. And then I walk out, and to be honest, I don't think about him again, truthfully, until the next day when I'm picking up my coffee. So it's not really, oh, everybody is equally important in where I'm spending my time and my energy. Everybody is equally important in my belief in humanity, right? So my time and attention, and I think I was saving this for the end, but I'm going to just do it now. A friend said to me recently, your spheres of concern are greater than your spheres of influence. And so I've been thinking about that a lot, right? And so I want to think about where my spheres of influence are. And that's where I put my time and my energy and my attention. So my influence in my marriage, huge. Going to get the bulk of my time and attention. My influence with my family, my kids are adults now, so it's less than it was when they were little. So it's actually less time than when they were little, right? My influence with the staff at NAA, I spend a lot of time there, a lot of influence there, a lot of energy and attention there. So it comes down to that. Where do I have the ability to have the most impact and influence? That's where I'm going to give my most time and attention.
That's so cool. I love that idea. So you also then make me think of a story that many people have heard this story. I have tried this in practice. I'm giving everyone the precursor. I've tried this in practice, but it's actually really hard. So here's the story. People say that former president, U.S. President Bill Clinton, they said when he was speaking to you, no one else was in the room. Like he zoned in on you, and he made you feel like you were the only person there. You're the most important there. And like, he was just so good at it. And so honestly, like, and we're being real right now, I have tried to implement that myself. But I find it to be hard at times, especially when you're in a space with other people, because I can give someone my full attention. At the same time, if I know, like, again, let's say hypothetically, the CFO is walking down the hallway and I really need to talk to them, technically speaking, I should just disregard that and continue the conversation if I'm following, quote unquote, the Bill Clinton thing. But if I'm also like, no, it's gonna be hard for me to get back with that person later on. Let me see if I can step away really quickly and talk to this person in this square, whatever it is. I'm giving a random example, but is something wrong with me that I feel like, yes, I am there, but also I'm kind of aware of who else is around. And at times there are people who I'm like, dude, I really need to talk to that person.
Grab them. Yeah, I think so. A couple of things come to mind. First is, Bill Clinton got to do this before the internet and before cell phones. Our attention spans have shrunk. I mean, it's something that I've been working on for myself, not just the being present part, but even just like sticking with something for a while. I've noticed, I'm working on a project and I'm so easily distracted because I got a phone habit. So there's that. But the other thing is, I think where people feel that you're not present is, I'm talking to you and I'm like trying to be all in, but I got one ear out because I know the CFO is going to. How would that change if you said, hey, by the way, I know the CFO is going to be walking by in a minute and I have got to grab her. So if I hear her, I'm going to jump. But just so you know, that's happening, right?
Yeah.
Being honest about where the part of your brain is that's not present allows you to be as present as possible and allows people to feel like you are really present because you don't have this other part spinning. I've done that like that. I've done that with, I'm just so you know, I'm waiting on a call from my doctor. So if the phone rings, I'm going to look, right? Just like naming there's so much power to naming what's actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I think, that would be my suggestion, Alex, try that.
No, I mean, it's just so funny why. So I'm going to shift the conversation to AI in a second, but it's so funny how having someone to bounce thoughts and ideas off of can go with a very simple answer. Of course, that it makes sense. Of course, but you didn't think about it yourself. Like for me, it makes so much sense because when we're teaching leaders how to establish trust within relationships, we say the same exact thing. Instead of making someone guess what you're thinking, you just tell them, hey, look, I just attended this training or I just read this book and it really talked about how important trust within a team is. I'd like to talk to you about how I can improve trust within our relationship. Hey, I'm going to try some stuff out. Do you mind giving me some feedback? And like just literally having that conversation and letting people know what your intentions are increases the likelihood of them helping you and being successful dramatically. But most of us don't do that.
It feels almost counterintuitive and rude. Like, oh, I want to have this conversation, but just so you know, I'm waiting for this other person to walk by. Sounds like, oh, you're not as important, right? But in reality, what it's saying is you are very important and you deserve to know what's going on with me and where my head is and what my competing needs are in this conversation.
Can I tell you a real story that just popped in my mind? A few weeks ago, I was talking to SVP at a very large organization, and this guy has been amazing, so supportive, love the work we're doing together and going to do together. And in that conversation, I was like, hey, earlier you mentioned that if I needed a favor, I could ask you. And I said, here you go. And he says, hey, thank you so much for that, Alex. I'm just letting you know for the next 3 months, my priority is here, X, Y, and Z. And so I'm probably not even going to think about that. And I thought about it. I'm like, man, like how many people would have felt upset or mad or kind of disgruntled because they just say, hey, look, I'm not thinking about that. But for me, I appreciated it so much. The fact that he was just honest with me, so I know what to expect and he knows what to expect, and I know in 3 months I'll ping back in to see if we can work on this together. But otherwise, how many people would feel like kind of guilty and will say, oh yeah, sure, knowing that they're likely not going to have a chance to follow through?
This gets to a friend said to me a long time ago, I would rather be good than nice. And I think we fall back on what sounds nice and we forget that, I think about that all the time. I would rather be good. I would rather be of good character. I would rather be good in competence, right? I would rather be good in all the ways you can think about being good. I would rather be kind. I was just talking to somebody last week that being direct is kind. And that's better than being nice, because nice says, oh yeah, I owe you a favor. Absolutely, I'm on it. All the while knowing that you're not going to get to it, or you think in that moment, I'll figure it out. I'll juggle it in. I'll figure it out. And then you're going to half-ass it. If I can use that language here.
Oh, please do.
Right. And then you know that you're not going to give it your all if you're going to do it at all. And the kind thing, the good thing is to be direct and say, I do owe you that favor. I do want to work on this with you. Now is not the time. This is when the time is. Try me again in 3 months and let's see. And if you had said, oh my gosh, I can't wait 3 months, then maybe it would be, I can give you 10 minutes to brainstorm with you. Who else could help you out in this? Right? I can do this, but I can give you this.
I want to continue on this pipeline, but I also do really want to bring up a conversation you and I were having. And so, long story short, for everyone, just a little bit of context, I was having a conversation with someone, again, a leader in a large organization, a very large organization. And as we're having the conversation, they get a call. They jump off, take the call, jump back on and says, hey, Alex, I am going to be doing a pretty significant reduction of force. And this will happen in 20 minutes. I have to contact people all across the world. There are people who I'm very close with who are going to be gone. This may be in the news tomorrow. And I bring that up because I'm right now talking to a lot of leaders who are going through similar situations. And what I tend to, I'm going to be very careful I say this, and everyone please feel free to correct me, right? It is absolutely horrible. I've unfortunately had to do massive layoffs in my roles of individuals who weren't performing, but also individuals who have performed very well. It's just that the result is, organization decided to go a particular way, right? And so, I can't tell you how horrible I felt, and I can't tell you how on the call with this individual, this person felt so horrible, even to the fact of feeling like, man, I almost wish that I would have been laid off too. So I wouldn't have to go through this and it would be done and so on and so forth. So I'd love to just kind of hear your thoughts on this and about, you know, what does it for a leader going through this? What does it look like? What does it feel like to have to make those calls, especially when you're not even making the call. You're just this person got told in a phone call, hey, this is happening in so many minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if they just found out and it's happening right now, they were not the decision maker. So they're carrying out somebody else's orders. So I want to preface this. You know, you were I feel like you were a little bit dancing around it when you were saying, I want to be careful how I phrase this. It is worse to be the person that got laid off. Hands down, 100%. Nobody is implying that leaders have it worse. It's so hard, right? Absolutely. The worst is to be the person that is losing their job, losing their livelihood, doesn't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
It is still hard. It is still hard to be the leader that has to do that, right? Like, things can be hard. And just because, you know, we're not comparing, right? And we're not saying, oh, feel sorry for me, right? I don't think that leaders are saying, feel sorry for me. It's part of being a leader, right? It's what we wanted when we took on leadership roles. It's what we were going for is, you know, I know that for myself, I want to be at the table when the hard decisions are made. They're still hard decisions, right? And so just because you took it on doesn't mean that it isn't hard. And just because the person that got laid off has it worse doesn't mean that it isn't hard. I think it is exceptionally hard for a leader who is not the decision maker, who now has to carry it out and has to go and tell people, I am so sorry, you no longer have a job at this organization, right? And gets faced with the backlash, gets faced with the people who are upset, gets faced with the questions. How was this decision made? It was just made. I don't know. But even if you're the person who's sitting at the table, right, and is making the decision, it's an awful decision, right? No one wants, it says things aren't going well. Business isn't going well. Something isn't happening right here that we have to reduce the size of our staff, right? We would all love to be in continuous and forever growth mode where we're just looking to add more, you know, add more people, continue to grow. So when we're talking about doing a reduction in force or a layoff, we're already saying things are not good. Business isn't good. The climate, something has gone wrong, right? Like right now, it's happening in a lot of places where it's not about business and it's not about profit, but things aren't good.
Yeah.
Things aren't going well, right? And so somebody has to make these calls, and they are excruciating calls to make because you're talking about people who are showing up every day and doing a good job and doing their best work. And you're not saying your best wasn't good enough, but that's how it feels. And it feels like that's what you're saying, even when you're not saying it. And frankly, it's hard even when you're letting somebody go because their best wasn't, in fact, good enough, or they maybe weren't bringing their best. Yeah. It's still
hard.
It's not an easy decision. It's not an easy message, right? You're still telling somebody you don't have a job. And in this society, having a job is the way we live. So to have to tell somebody that no matter what is not easy.
You mentioned one, you said so much, and two, you mentioned a few words I want to key in on. One, I think one of the big issues is comparing. Mm-hmm. And I was doing a class the other day. I was doing a workshop, and we were talking about how one of the participants brought up, well, you know, how do you deal with someone who's having a small issue, but it's such a big issue for them, it's blowing up. I'm like, well, let's look at this. You are saying it is a small issue, but you don't know if it's a small issue for them, right? You don't know if that person, maybe it looks small from the outside, but it's going to have a significant impact. Or maybe that's the 20th small thing they dealt with this morning, right? Mm-hmm. Like, we just do not know what people are going through in the context of their life. And so I am not a fan of comparing in those situations. You say, oh, well, mine is, again, I'm going to, here's another reality you and I've talked about before too. So I've worked with a lot of clients that go through mergers and acquisitions, and so working with their teams. And so, there are leaders in those situations who are laying people off and know that their job is they're going to be laid off
Right.
2 months, 3 months later.
Right. I'm only here to do the layoffs, and then the last one that I do is for myself. Yeah.
Mhm.
It happens all the time. It happens all the time. And that, I mean, I myself have never been in that situation, and I can't even fathom. So much respect for the people that show up 100% day in, day out, do this incredibly hard thing of downsizing, knowing that they're part of the downsize. I can't even imagine. I think though the comparison thing, I think two things. One is comparing can be dangerous, because then as leaders, we start to feel like, well, I shouldn't feel sorry for myself. I still have a job. I'm still a leader, right? And so then we don't do the care. And we've talked about this before too, right? Like the weight that we carry when making these hard decisions is real. And
Mhm.
it's good to acknowledge that. And it's good to get help for that when we need, whether everything from professional help if we need it. There should not be any shame. And I'm happy to tell you all about the therapy that I'm getting right now. Down to, do you have a trusted colleague that is in a similar situation, either at your organization or outside, depending on your role and depending on what you're talking through, that you can talk to and say, this was so hard. Today was rough.
Yeah.
I just had to
Yeah.
do this thing, right? Like, I hope the person you were just talking to has somebody like that in their life, that after this day, that their head has got to be spinning, that they've got somebody that they can debrief it with, that they can just vent to, somebody that can listen to them and hold some space for them, because it's hard. And again, that doesn't mean we don't want to do it, right? It doesn't mean, but wanting to do something and still needing some support because it's hard are not mutually exclusive. But then, yeah, your other point, right? Like, one of the things, I guess, that I think about a lot in, this idea that I have of like every person is unique and every person has dignity, and that I want to be present and see every person individually, is that, every person is going through whatever it is that they're going through, and it's meaningful for them. And whatever is meaningful for you is meaningful for you. And I don't have to understand it, and I don't have to have lived it to believe you. And so how do we
Mhm.
make space? If somebody comes and says, oh, I'm going through this horrible thing and it's so bad, and if I were going through it, it wouldn't feel that bad, right? And either because I've been through something else that feels like it was worse, or because that particular thing isn't a thing for me, right?
Yeah.
How do I still respect and honor that it's a thing for them?
I use this video. I can't. Oh my god, it's called. I cannot think of the name of the band right now, but they are a Mongolian throat singing rock band. Maybe it's like the Who,
Okay.
or something like that. And I
That's
love. So what I'll do is I'll
fascinating.
play
Yeah.
it. So I'll play one of their songs in one of my courses the workshops that we do, and I'll have people listen to it, and then afterwards, they will. I'll ask them, so what do you think? And some people are like, oh, it's so cool. I love this. I love that. All this. And then undoubtedly, I'll have someone say, I don't get it. I don't understand it. It's a different language. Not really into rock. Like all these things. And then I said, okay, this is great. Now, here's my question: Is can you find something about it that you appreciate?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Something.
Mm-hmm.
And without doubt, people will say, "Oh, actually, I like the scenery. Like they're in a really cool desert, or the
Mm-hmm.
guitar, the color of the guitar." Like we don't always have to understand
Right.
people and what they're going through. If we can appreciate, just do our best to appreciate it. They're going through something, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You've shared so many really great learnings. I want to ask you a question, but just about again on that learning tip again. What is a what is a hard truth that you had to learn that made you a better executive leader? A hard
Mm.
truth.
I mean, there have been so many. Um, This one is going to be hard for me to answer, and it sounds so sappy, but one of the things I think the thing that I have had to learn is that I need to not only be okay with being uncomfortable, but I need to chase discomfort. A thing that I share with folks all the time is I believe that there is the distance between what you are capable of and your comfort. There's this distance, right? And so a lot of times we're outside of our comfort zone, but we're still well within our capability. And what I believe is that the distance stays the same. So you get outside of your comfort zone, but you're still capable, but you start to get comfortable there. Your comfort zone increases, but your capability increases at the same time, right? And so the goal is to live just outside of our comfort zone, but within our capability, right? Like that's where we shine. And I believe that wholeheartedly. I tell people this all the time when people are struggling, right? And I believe that for real growth, sometimes you have to get outside of your comfort zone and outside of your capability. And I think this is less about like your professional skills and more about character growth, learning how to be comfortable as a leader, right? Like you don't just wake up saying I can sit at these tables and make these hard decisions and still sleep at night, right? So I think learning how to chase that kind of discomfort where it's outside of what I am even capable of right now. I learned that the hard way by being thrown into those kinds of situations. And then realizing, wow, these are the times that I grew. These are the times that I came through that, and I am a different person, a stronger person, a more loving person, a more resilient person, right? I still believe that for the hard skills, you want to stay there where you're capable and let your capabilities grow slowly, because you can cause a lot of damage if you try and do a job you're literally not qualified for. But on the personal side, the growth side, the what we call soft skills, which I don't like that term and I haven't found a better one. If you have a better term for soft skills,
I've heard, I really like this one, executive skills.
Ooh, I like that.
Because what is an executive but doing all those things, right?
All those things. So yeah, I think that those skills and just becoming a better person, more the person that I want to be, a person that is living aligned to the things that I say that I value. I have to chase discomfort because in many, many ways, for me in particular, and let's just, name some identities, right? I am a white, middle-class, well-educated, cisgender, straight woman, right? So in many, many ways, the world is designed for me to be comfortable. And even in leadership, in many ways, the world is designed for me to be comfortable. But if I really want to grow, I have to look for those places where I'm not going to be comfortable.
Can I put something on the table? Oh man, some people are not gonna like me for this one. Okay, so here's the first one actually, and this is not the bad one. This is not the challenging one.
Okay.
This is the. I'm going to challenge everyone to think about their life, think about the accomplishments they're most proud of, and answer the question in the chat box. Were you doing something that was easy, or was it something that was challenging? And I promise you, 9 times out of 10, those things that we remember that we're so proud of, those are those hard things, those difficult things.
Yeah.
And so chasing it down makes so much sense. Now here's the other piece though. I personally believe that hard is always there for us. Hard is always there for us. And we have so many different roles that we play: mother, father, uncle, aunt, leader, supervisor, executive. I identify woman, male, cisgender, like all those things may have benefits to them and may have difficulties to them. And so when we talk about some of the people and let's quote them, I say the majority it is the majority anywhere, right? Because the majority, and it's very different here in America versus America is broad versus down south versus up north versus India versus, so the majority, wherever the majority is, they, yes, do have certain things easier, but I also think there's a difficulty in being the majority because things are easier and you don't always have to build that resilience. You don't always have to build those other skills that are required to be successful and maintain success.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I think that's what I was trying to get at, right? Like for me personally, I have to chase discomfort because there's a lot about the particular context that I live in that makes it easy for me to escape some of those hard things, right? And I could, in the context in which I live and the person that I am, cultivate a pretty non-challenging life if I wanted.
Yeah.
I don't want to, and that, so you asked me, like, this whole conversation started, like, what's one of the hardest lessons that you had to learn? And that was the lesson that I had to learn, that I could coast. I could coast as a leader. I could coast as a leader because in many, many ways, the way leadership is structured, I fit in. I mean, I'm a woman in a male-dominated field, but I'm in human resources, right? I'm in a female-dominated field. I could coast as a leader and do pretty well, right? But if I really want to be the best me that I can be, if I really want to be not only as a leader, but as a person, and to me, the two are really intertwined, because if I'm not the person that I'm supposed to be, then I will not be the leader that I want to be. And that means knowing what it is that I value and making sure that my life and the way I show up aligns to those values. And it would be easy for me to just say that I value some pretty things and not have to back it up with my actions and still be okay. And that's not who I want to be.
So,
and I think for any leader, for any person, frankly, but for any leader, right, you have to think about who do you really want to be and what do you have to do to make sure that you're getting there.
Two things really quickly. I know we start wrapping up. You again, everyone, I hope you know this reference. She's dropping bars. So first things first. And second, I want to underscore this last point you made, because it is a very powerful exercise that I love doing as well in our workshops. Is, there's this thing called the retirement exercise. Oh, I want you to close your eyes, imagine you're in your retirement day. People are saying something about you. Okay, well, what would they say about you? Oh, they say I was this. They say I was that. They say I was this. That's a great exercise. It's meant for you to be more maybe introspective and to your life and whatnot, how people view you. I don't particularly care for that exercise. I don't think this is actionable enough. My twist on that exercise is not asking yourself, what would people say about you, but asking yourself, what would you want people to say about you? Those are two different things. And if you know what you want people to say, then like Anne just said, now you can identify the behaviors, the things you need to actually do to be in alignment with that person you say you want people talking about you. So I love what you just said, Anne. I know we have to start wrapping up. So is there anything you'd like to share with our audience as we begin to wrap up?
Well, I'm going to come back to the beginning. I told you that it was a spoiler at the beginning. I think this idea of your spheres of concern and your spheres of influence are really, it's such an important concept, because first of all, there's a lot happening in the world right now. And there's a lot of things that people are concerned about. There's also a lot of things for you happening as a leader. I think back to the colleague that you were talking to earlier, who's, I guess going through this riff, as we speak. There are things that they can influence and things that they can just be concerned about. And we lose our grip when we get overwhelmed with all of the things to be concerned about. And so I think wherever you're at and whatever is going on, name all the things. Again, power in naming stuff, right? name all the things and then think, where are the places that I have real influence? Where are the places that I can make an impact? Put your time, put your attention, put your energy to that, because that is where you are going to, first of all, have that impact that you want to have. Probably, I haven't thought about this, but probably the more you do that, the more your spheres of influence, grow.
Yes.
Yes, obviously that is true, right? That's how we got to be leaders. But put your energy there. You'll have the impact, you'll have the influence, you'll also have the calm and that inner peace, because you're not fretting over all the stuff that is fretful, but outside of your control, because you're doing all the right things in the places that you can control, right? If you get a call and you got to do a huge global riff in 10 minutes, you can't control those decisions. Those decisions have been made. Wasting time worrying about, were they the right decisions? Were they the wrong decisions? How did they make those decisions? It doesn't matter. What matters is I have to go have these conversations. What's important to me? Who am I as a leader? Who am I as a person? How do I want to show up in these conversations? What do I want to make sure people take away from them? Take your ego out of it, because if you're laying people off, your concern of how they're going to think of you should not even be on the table, right? But I think that carries over to everything. Yeah. What is the impact you want to have? What is the influence you want to have? And yeah, too often, if the influence or the impact you want to have is how people think of you, you're doing it wrong.
Bars. So everyone, thank you, Miss Anne. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your time and your stories and your perspective and all the good stuff with us. I honestly, I've learned so much. I know I've grown so much from this conversation. And I know everyone who's been listening, if you've made it this far into this episode, can you please do me a favor in the chat, in the comment, just let us know what was the thing you took from this call, from this interview. What's the thing you're going to say, this is gold for me. I'm going to implement this into my life. You all know where I'm going with this. If you found anything of value, which I know you did from this episode, please don't look back, reach back, bring this episode to somebody else. And honestly, if you don't even want to share it with them, all you got to do is click the like, right? Click the like, click the share. Either way, that gets out to more and more people who, if you found value in it, I promise you they will as well. So as always, I encourage all of you, thank you so much for being here. Stay strong, stay positive, and definitely stay moving. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Executive Appeal with Alex Trumbull. I invite you to follow The Executive Appeal wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow me, your host, Alex Trumbull, across all socials or via email for exclusive webinars, courses, and speaking engagements on continued topics of executive leadership. So until next time, stay strong, stay positive, and definitely stay moving.